So the next step we want to do now is we've got our dead center here of our piece of wood. Just getting out a digital caliper. This is a really good tool to be using, especially for our HMS Victory build here. It's really good to have a digital caliper. Just make sure you set it to 0, right, with it completely closed, so it's all nice and calibrated. And then what we're going to do, just at the top here, we want to measure what our exact sort of measurement is here. So we just open this up and then we just close it, right, and we get a reading of basically about 3 millimeters, right, and you want to check both sides as well, right, just make sure it's square. I mean, as you can see from our reading here, that's like 3.0 mil, so it is basically 3 millimeters squared, slightly out a little bit, but you know, we don't have to be that precise really. And then remember to turn it off to save your batteries. So what we want to do now is get this measured in. So just getting a ruler, right, and a pencil. So just getting a ruler and a pencil, what we're going to do, we're going to get our dead center line there, put it, seems though it's 3 mil, you know, what we can do, we can put our dead center line dead center in between one of these millimeter marks, right, and then all we have to do is just basically count 1.5 mil either side, right, and make a mark basically. So as you can see there, you know, we've got the marks we need. Then we can come in with a good old T-square. So we bring our T-square in, line that up nicely, just like so, and then, you know, we can come in and make our mark there. Do the same to the other mark we made, right, and there we go. What we then have here is basically exactly what needs to be cut out, just there, as you can see there, and we've got all that nicely measured, the exact length and everything that we're going to be needing. Now remember, it's 3 mil squared basically, so what we sort of need to do is go deep 1.5 mil. So, you know, again, we can get out our ruler, right, and we can basically come down on this, make a mark of about that 1.5 mil, right, so at least we then know that's how deep we need to go and where we're doing everything. Now, to get this sort of sanded down really quickly and easy, it's not always as you know, the best idea is to come in with like maybe some chisels and files and all sorts of things. Actually, coming in with a micro saw is actually also a good way of doing it. But to get your micro saw working, what we're going to do, we're going to line the line up with our first line. Right, we're going to saw it. Okay. We don't want to go too far, right? Even though, you know, you can try and sort of get it bang on the mark that we've made just there. You know, maybe not try and go too deep. You don't want to go too deep, although there are ways around if we go too deep. And then we can also then go up to our other line and just saw that as well. Only go down so far. I mean, you can, if you want to, go off, and you could get, say, a 1.5 mil, say, sort of thick plank of wood, and maybe you could just lay that down opposite it, say, sort of like this. We sort of line it up there, so you know, we know if we cut down to the next piece of wood that that's how far we need to go. But you know, no need there. I only need to go so far, and then because we've made our 2 cuts there, as you can see, what we basically want to do here now is just make loads and loads of cuts. Okay, just going all the way along, keep sawing to it as much as you can, Even go to slight diagonal if you want. Right, and that's really sort of like cut it into our piece just there. Right, so then what we can do is we can get out our blade, and it should be a lot easier, hopefully, as you just see in there, if we just sort of cut in, because we've sort of only got little bits to sort of cut out now because we've done all that sawing in there. It actually does get us dug down pretty quick, pretty sort of easy. Right, I mean, we've got a bit of tidying up to do now, but hopefully you can see that as sort of cut out our general shape really quick and really easy. Definitely recommend getting the saw, loads and loads of cuts into it, and then you can just cut it out so much easier. It basically just weakens the wood by doing that. And then obviously we can then come in with all sorts of different files. I don't think that's going to be a good one. Let's get one that's got a, there we go. This one will be alright. We can then sort of come in with our files, and then we can just sort of nicely tidy that up. Again, remembering where our mark is of how deep we've got to go, which that's looking rather good. Right, we're not looking too bad there, so we can probably do a little quick test fit. Right, and that's looking like it's fitting, you know, rather snug, and you want it to basically go halfway down, and hopefully, as you can see, just might be able to see, you know, we're not halfway down yet, so you just want to keep sanding at that until we sort of get the right depth, and do it to both pieces as well. Right then, one other problem you might have is you might have actually sanded down a little bit too far, like I did with this one. Hopefully you see in there that even looks like I've gone too far, and if I actually put my piece in here, you know, I mean, it literally almost sort of completely swallows that up. So yeah, we've gone a little bit too far, so I have made 2 marks just on here either side. Just focus in, and hopefully you can see that's the depth what we want to be at. So what basically we need to do now is we need to sort of pack this out and build it back up, which is not what you want to be doing, but if you do, it's not that hard really. What we've got some really sort of thin pieces of plank here, which I do believe is like leftover bits from like issue 1, 2 and whatnot. So we've got some really nice thin pieces here, and all we've got to do is basically sort of cut this to size. So what we've got here is, let's just measure this out. It's about yeah, it should be about 3mm across, which is, you know, what we measured before. So we just want to now go off and make some quick marks just on here. Right, so we're going to mark 3mm from the edge. Right, and then we'll mark that going all the way along as well, 3mm. Right, so all we have to do then is get our ruler. Let's get you on camera. All we've got to do is get our ruler then and butt it up to both marks. Okay, getting it nicely on sort of target, and then we can, well actually, I mean, we could draw a line, or this is so thin we can actually come in with our blade and actually make the cut. Right, so then this should fit in, as you can see, rather easily. So then if we get some cutters, it'll probably be quicker with some cutters. Right, we can maybe trying to hold this, maybe get a quick pencil line. Although actually, do you know what, it'd probably be easy if we just cut up just a bunch of these. Right, so I'm just gonna let it flying off. Let's just cut a couple of these off. We might only need like 3 or 4, maybe 2. Right, it doesn't matter if they're too long. We'll sort of fix that later. So what we want to do now is just lay these on top of each other, right, until we build it back up to what we want. Let's just press it down with the blade. Where's our marks? I think it's on the opposite side. Let's turn this round for you. Right, and by the looks of it, hopefully as you can see there, you might be able to see my little marks I've made there. 2 of them actually builds that up probably just about right. It still may need a little bit of sanding. So what we basically need to do, get out your wood glue and glue these 2 little planks down. So our 2 pieces of plank in there has now glued into place. A little bit of a tip as well, just to make sure it really sort of locks in and it's got that pressure to sort of hold it down and glue it into place. Getting your anchor, placing it and buttoning up against our 2 pieces of planks of wood and a peg, and it will just really sort of apply that pressure to really sort of get them to basically just almost weld together. So we've got a little bit of excess just left over, as you can see there with the wood. So simply we can come in, we can give that a little bit of a cut. We can then get any old sanding stick really, and give that a little bit of a sand just to sort of smooth it off. So if you ever have that sort of mistake like I have, where you've sort of maybe cut it a little bit too much, we can easily sort of fill that in, as you can see there. Now that is probably going to need a little bit, just a little bit of foiling as well, because it's just not quite there, so to speak. Okay, because it does need just a little bit of a shaving, just so that we get only half of that anchor in there, which is it's just not quite there. It's just like a fraction of a millimetre that needs to be sanded. So I'm going to sand this just to the right height now. So with that done now, all we want to do, we want to sort of get this sort of ring here, this copper ring or brass ring, sort of bend it out just a little bit, because what you want to do, you want to sort of feed it through. There's a little hole on our metal cast anchor here. You want to just get that fed through, just through there, and then obviously what you're going to want to do then is sort of just bend it back, alright, so that lines up just nicely, and then we sort of also want to sort of squeeze it inwards so that we close that little gap as much as we can, really. If you can do it nice and carefully without sort of losing the shape of the circle. And then where we've got that little gap just there, we want that to go in there, so that's sort of going to get hidden if we have it moved there. And then what we want to do, we want to get out our wood glue, okay, and then we're just going to now apply this wood glue, so I don't need to just pop the top a bit. There's my blade. Just cut the top off a little bit, well, not cut the top, cut the dry glue off, so it's going to come out. And we just want to put a nice line of our wood glue. Right, doesn't matter, let's get it over both of them, doesn't matter if it oozes out. Right, and what we're going to do here, right, is we need to make sure, I do believe it's the flat bit needs to go to the top. Right, so we want to then rest our anchor just on here. Right, then we want to bring on our next piece and have it so it's all just nice and lined up. Right, and then we just basically sort of squash them together, and this is where we can then get out some pegs to really sort of squash this up. Hold on, let's just have the one for now, because what we're going to want to do is we get out a quick kitchen paper towel. I'll probably have just applied too much glue here, but you know what, it's easily sort of cleaned up. Get out a kitchen paper towel, we can get out most of it. So I'm just cleaning up the one side really, and then I can put a peg on that side, remove the one the opposite side, so we've always got some sort of constant pressure down on this. Right, and then we can add the peg the opposite side, and just making sure it's all sort of just nicely lining up there. Got a bit of an ooze out there, so again remove that peg, and again we can come in with some cotton wool buds. Always good to sort of get into those hard to reach places to clean up these areas, just like so. And then actually around where a little metal ring is here, we want that to just be, you know, pointing upwards and fixing upwards. I'm just going to sort of try and push it in a bit, not too much. Let's sort of like try and push it in a bit so it sort of holds there a little bit better. Right, I'm just going to clean that up. I'm going to apply some more pegs just to make sure we've got that pressure in there. So 2 more should do it just nicely. If you have got some glue still coming out, don't worry, we can take care of that later. But just make sure your little ring is just basically it's coming up 90 degrees, and it's all sort of nicely lined up and everything. Just make sure that's all good. Right then, so while that dries, I want to show you something else, but just as another little quick tip, get your T-square out, right, and just butt that right up, and basically you might have to sort of move the pegs a little bit, and you want to butt that up, and you basically want to get a nice right angle just there, so it's not sort of bending one way and looking a bit off. But yeah, just leave that to dry now. Then what I've got a little shot glass here. These little shot glasses are quite cool, really cheap. They're plastic little shot glasses, but they're good for all sorts of kind of different mixing that you might want to be doing. In this case, what we're going to do, just got some water in there, just a bit of H2O. I'm going to get a bit of our wood glue. We're going to pour that in there and make basically a weaker version of our wood glue. You could use PVA glue if you want. Get in an old paintbrush. We're going to mix this all in. Alright, so it's quite a nice thin mixture of basically PVA glue. Alright, so get that, put that in a pot to be cleaned so you can use it again. And then you get this bit of string with our anchor here. Now, in real life, I mean, this rope would be pretty big, pretty heavy, and I do believe they do weigh, you know, quite a fair bit. But I mean, if we look sort of closer, because it's a piece of string, I mean, there are like bits of hairs sort of coming off it, and what we want to do, we want to sort of create that effect of it being in scale. And let's face it, because it's string, it's light, it's not gonna sit right, you know. The real one in real life is just going to be really sort of heavy, so it'll just really sort of like sink right down, whereas, you know, as you can see here, I mean, it can just be all sort of over the place and not really sitting right realistically. So one thing we can sort of do, there's a few things to get it to look realistically, and as we've just made up our little mixture here of like a weakened wood glue, we just want to now whack in our string. So just grab something, maybe we'll just get our paintbrush out again, and we want to sort of now really sort of soak a piece of string in here, right? And what this is going to do is it's going to get all the little hairs and stuff, and like really sort of start to stick it to the actual piece of string and start to make it look a bit more in scale, and it makes it a little bit tougher as well, not so sort of loose, so we can then in a way sort of place it and bend it into a much more sort of realistic in scale sort of way. Now this isn't the end of the process to make this a bit more realistic, but yeah, you basically want to, you know, leave it in here just for a couple of seconds. You just need it to soak up with that wood glue, right? and because it's so thinned down, it's not going to sort of make this dry rock hard solid. It's just going to sort of stiffen it up a little bit and get rid of those hairs. Not completely, there, as I say, there's another stage to this, so we just get this out now, right? And literally you could hang this on your washing line until it's dried.